So, yeah, I don't support paedophiles, rapists, serial killers. No way. They're a fraction of the prison population. I saw people in prison were society's most vulnerable people, people with addiction issues, soldiers. More than half of my friends were soldiers, come back from
Really?
war. Yeah, PTSD, come back from wars, no help from the government, just used and abused, get on street drugs to self-medicate and end up in prison. And they don't give a shit about them. They get them to do their dirty work, send them off to the Middle East. They come back messed up in the head, and then they end up in prison. You got 20 plus soldiers a day right now committing suicide in your country.
Right.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
And
So
still fighting the government just to get the VA to pay for some of there's guys that have Agent Orange from Vietnam that still are fighting the government to get them to pay for their treatment, and they're losing.
they're just used. They're just used. It's horrific.
And the craziest part about that is there's still it's amazing that there's any sense of patriotism even within these veterans that are fighting the country to pay for the shit they've gone through.
Because they know, there's always a new generation that they can brainwash. And that's what they rely on. They just rely on young, idealistic people, pump them up with patriotic notions, and send them off as cannon fodder.
Yeah.
So, prison is the biggest houser of the mentally ill. When they shut down the mental hospitals after Cuckoo's Nest came out, prisons by default became the biggest houser of the mentally ill. Like I said earlier, a third of them couldn't even read or write. I started to listen to the stories. 90% were injecting heroin. Now people think, all right, filthy heroin addicts, they don't deserve anything, scum of the earth, stealing stuff. Well, I had to break through that and listen to the stories. And they were sexually molested as kids. They'd seen their parents die. They didn't even have parents. Just thrown away onto the streets, kicked out of their houses where they've been abused previously. And then what are they going to do to fend them for themselves? Getting no help from anyone. They get in with the gangs, they get on the drugs, and they're taking the heroin because heroin is so strong, it puts them so far out of their minds. They don't have to think about all the abuse and the horrors that they've suffered because no one's given them the tools to deal with that. So you've got human beings being warehoused for profit in America for the private prisons, and the contracts are in the tens of billions a year. And then the kick down to the politicians and the legislators are in the tens of millions a year in political contributions. They're paying these guys off to tighten laws to put more people in prison so they can make more profits. That's why America's got 1 in 100 adults in prison right now. It's ridiculous. That's why you've got social unrest. The police have got arrest quotas. I heard a policeman say, I go in a black neighborhood and make my arrest. It's like shooting fish in a barrel.
Right.
They've got to make so many arrests. They just go where they can arrest low-level drug users. Are the easiest ones. But
Right.
they're on the news, they're arresting Pablo Escobar, which is bullshit. It's so hard to arrest a drug trafficker. The low-hanging fruit are the low-level drug users, the street-level people. So all this social unrest you got going on around the world right now is a reaction to the extreme the prison system has gone in America and the drug laws and the war on drugs. If you're a black guy walking around your neighborhood, got some weed on you, cop might pull you over, not just bust your weed, but he might shoot you dead.
Right.
This is all a function of the war on drugs. So all drugs should be legalized. Kids should be educated and not incarcerated. That's my philosophy.
What is the perspective from your area of the world on what's going on? I mean, I know what's going on globally right now, but we've gone out in the street and we've seen, you got people, you've got two sides of the street. One of them are all Trump supporters, or they call themselves Back the Blue, where they're supporting the police. And you have the other side of the street that's Black Lives Matter. It's 50-50 white people and black people on the Black Lives Matter. And the people that are on the other side saying, we back the police, we support the blue, Trump 2020, it seems like it's way older of a generation. And it doesn't matter what the truth is about anything. It's just they're stuck in their ideologies, and it's just this primal instinct. They just want to fight. It's so wild seeing it in real life. So anyways, I was just interested to hear the point of view from someone like you living in your part of the world.
Well, my point of view is this. I read over 1,000 books in just under 6 years. I've become obsessed with history, philosophy, psychology,
Yeah.
and technology advances, but human nature remains the same. So throughout history, people have always formed groups, and these groups will brutalize or go to war with other groups of people. Call it religion, politics, race, anything you want. You could fix the race problem, and people would find another way to form groups to attack other people.
Hmm.
In the jail, it was the white gang, the black gang, the Mexican American gang, and whichever group was strongest and had the most numbers would brutalize the groups with the least numbers. And that's a microcosm of society.
Yeah, it seems
So,
like it really relates back to prison, right? I mean, that seems like a very boiled down version of what the broad spectrum is in the world.
well, the racism and racial division that, America became politically correct, but it bypassed the prison system. It's been in there for the last decade and it's not changed. And if you can keep the prisoners divided like that, you can conquer and control them. And if the elites can keep the population divided, they can conquer and control them. So that's what I believe it is. It's all divide and conquer.
Yeah, I mean, you can clearly see that the right wing conservatives, they signal to the white working class and the big businesses like oil, and the left signals to the brown and black working class and elite level like Silicon Valley. But it seems like if the two working classes work together, the majority of power would be there.
Yeah, yeah, there you go. And you've got the police who are from the working class policing the working class. So the working class is policing itself. How clever is that if you're running a country?
Right, right.
The
Over a
prisons,
long
the
period of time.
prisons are run on prison labor. If all the prisoners refused to work, the prisons would collapse
Hmm.
because they can use prison labor as slaves. Slavery was not abolished in America. There was a loophole in the Constitution. Slavery is abolished except for people convicted of crimes. So not only are they using the prisoners as slave labor force to run the prison system, all the major companies in America are using that slave labor force as well. Everything from military equipment to road signs and all these contracts that they do. It's just one big
That's
financial
amazing.
shakedown.